special blessing upon us tonight. Open our minds and our hearts to your message. Draw us closer to your sacred heart. Keep us safe during these really trying times. Help us to trust in you. Fill us with courage and patience and peace, perseverance, and complete trust in you. And we just ask for an outpouring of your Holy Spirit right now. And thank you for all the people that are able to be here tonight. We love you, Jesus. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Sorry. If you care.
Wonderful. Love this, I think. Awesome. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Super excited to be here speaking with you all. I wish you can see the smile behind this mask, but sadly you cannot. You'll also see me fidgeting with it and moving it up constantly throughout the night because it won't stay on my face no matter what I do. I actually taped it the other day, like under my mask, pro tip, and it stayed on for a while until it didn't. And then everyone heard the crinkling of the tape under my mask like, as I'm speaking, and I was exposed, so it was kind of embarrassing. But talking about awkward sharing, there you go. Awesome. So we'll start off just by introducing ourselves, I guess. Like she said, my name is Parker, and I'm not from Ohio originally. I'm actually from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So accustomed to a lot warmer weather than this. I was actually talking with someone earlier. I actually went to my first Browns game today, which was like super incredible for me, right? But it was like miserable at the same time because like I'm cold, like I'm wet. There's like rain like on my legs. It's like freezing and like I can't feel my toes. So that was interesting experience, but good for me nonetheless. And fun fact about me, I guess we'll share fun facts. That's what you do at a youth group, right? You share fun facts. Do you have any athletes in here? Like anyone who plays any sports or anything? Maybe just even like sports? Yeah? Awesome, great. So I was a bit of an athlete myself growing up, actually. I actually played basketball for 6 years. But don't be impressed because in 6 years of basketball, somehow, all I managed to do is score one basket. So 6 years of basketball, I see the applause back there. Thank you, thank you. So if anyone like after this wants to take me on like a little like one-on-one, you could probably beat me. Because statistically, I'll only score on you once every 6 years. So you have extremely high odds of doing that. So that's a little bit about myself. I'll let Danny introduce herself.
Yeah, hello, my name is, wow, I don't really like holding a microphone, just gonna let you know, but here we are. My name is Danny. I am also not originally from Ohio. I am from Colorado Springs, Colorado, about an hour south of Denver, so I am accustomed to the cold. A fun fact about me, well, one that I really like to share a lot is that I have an irrational fear of birds. I'm terrified of birds and all winged things, actually. So if something has wings, I'm probably scared of that thing. But Parker and I, we're here to talk to you about something that is, I'm sure, very prevalent in all of our lives. It is, I know it's prevalent in my life, and that is social media.
Just to clarify, Danny, winged things, does that mean butterflies?
Yes, butterflies.
Cockatoos?
Yes,
Dodo
cockatoos.
birds?
Yep.
The list goes on. I always just
All of
want to
it.
know. That's interesting.
Yep.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
you are comfortable with it, you are welcome to take your mask off. We'll try to understand
Oh.
you better, because I think you're far enough away from us.
Sure.
You comfortable with that?
Are you?
We're good.
Wow. Wow, this is sweet freedom. I'm glad you could all experience this moment with me. Wow. Woo, this is liberating. Great. So, now you can see the smile behind my face. How's it going? Hey. Behind my face, behind my mask. I can't speak this afternoon. Wow, crazy. So, if I can ever get the proper words out of my mouth, what we're going to be speaking about today, like Danny said, is social media. And this isn't a social media talk of like, it's evil, it's horrible, it's terrible, get off at all costs, that darn media kind of a talk, but really just an open examination of how we use it and how we can use it to the best of our ability. Really, with anything in our life, a lot of times, like a good open reflection on just how it's affecting us can really be crucial in like moving forward in our lives, in our spiritual lives, in our physical lives, whatever it might be. So really what we're going to do is just like look at like how we can use media in general to change the world for the better, actually, while also looking at the ways that maybe we can really improve and like use it, or recognize those ways that maybe we failed to use it in the best of ways and make those changes in our lives. So with that in mind, we're gonna start off kind of a little icebreaker here. We're gonna show a little video. We're gonna start off with a form of media that we all know and love, YouTube, right? We've probably all made it down that dreaded YouTube rabbit hole after video after video after video, right? So maybe, for example, you end up watching videos of people doing cool stunts, kind of like these. Oh, that's embarrassing.
Actually, I'm gonna go. Just kidding, I can't.
Oh, my iMessage is open. That's embarrassing. Without further ado, awesome videos like this. I love it, but maybe instead your speed is watching people fall down.
Las más claras de momento siguen siendo para el equipo de Cachaba.
This is like human Frogger trying to get hit, but. Are you okay? Are you okay? All right, sorry.
Cheers, Maddie. Just like the movie Prince right here.
I saw it coming. Maybe instead you like watching cool music videos. Awesome. So we could probably spend this entire night showing each other our favorite YouTube videos, but sadly, we don't have time for that. So instead what we're gonna do is we're gonna zoom out, and we're gonna start looking at just social media as a whole.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and start looking at like different like forms of social media, right? So if you guys see your favorite, just go ahead and like, I don't know, like raise your hand or do something, okay? Cool. So we're gonna go ahead and start out with Facebook. Anybody on Facebook? Probably not, because Facebook is a little bit for the older crowd, right? I am also on Facebook, but typically younger people aren't on Facebook as much. But if you are on Facebook, we are joined with 2.2 billion other people, monthly users. A lot of people like Facebook. Sorry about that. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to our second form. Anybody on Twitter? Yeah? I'm not on Twitter, like I said, scared of birds, so we don't mess with that, okay? So if you are on Twitter, you're joined with 335 million other monthly users. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to my personal fave, the Gram. Anybody on the Gram? Yeah, we love the Gram. A lot of people love the Gram. In fact, 1 billion monthly people, people monthly use the Gram, the Instagram, cool? Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to Snapchat. Anybody on Snapchat? Yeah, me too. Typically, I just use Snapchat for sending ugly selfies of myself to my best friends, right? Like, or the snap streaks, yeah. But we are joined by 291 million other monthly users. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to my second fave, YouTube. YouTube, anybody? Yeah, we love YouTube. I'm makeup challenged. I was actually telling someone this earlier, and I love watching like makeup tutorials, right? Like maybe a little James Charles, Emma Chamberlain, we love it. But we are joined by 1.9 billion other monthly users. A lot of people really like YouTube. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to Twitch. Anybody on Twitch? Yeah, very cool. I've never personally used Twitch before, but it's like a video gaming streaming site. Yeah, am I right? Very cool. If you're on Twitch, you're joined with 15 million other users. And then last but not least, TikTok. Anybody on TikTok? Yeah, don't be ashamed. It's cool. I'm on TikTok, okay. The Culture Project's on TikTok. But if you are on TikTok, like I am, we are joined, and actually this number has gone up. It's going crazy, right? It's 800 million. I don't know if you guys saw today, Charli D'Amelio actually hit 100 million followers. Crazy. But this brings me to the question, if you guys are on social media, if you guys are on all these different social media sites, what are you guys on social media for, or what are you using social media? In other words, what is your why? Do you like watching TikTok dances, doing that whole thing? Maybe you're on social media because you just, sometimes you're in awkward situations and you want to just be able to get on your phone and scroll through, right? So it's a little less awkward. Or watching YouTube tutorials, anything like that. And it's really hard, it's crazy to think there's never really been a time before where social media has been such a huge part of our lives, and even to the point where, if we want to learn something, we can just go on YouTube, and before you'd have to go take a class or get an encyclopedia. If you wanted to send a picture, you'd have to send it through snail mail instead of like texting your friends, because now we can snap, Instaface, tweet our friends within a matter of minutes, within a matter of seconds. And so we can see how social media and media itself is just a completely essential way of how we communicate with people nowadays and how we share pieces of our life.
Yeah, so thinking about what is your why, we at the Culture Project also have a why. We at the core of our mission actually use social media a lot. So I realized we never even explained what the Culture Project is, why we're even here. We as the Culture Project are really an initiative of young people who have given up a year or more of their lives, most of us recent college grads or just young adults in the workplace who have given up a year or more of their lives to be missionaries, to live in community and just spread just the good news of just who we are and how we're called to live. And we believe that when we put the human person at the forefront of all that we do, that helps make us better people and our world actually a better place. And we believe that it applies to each and every action that we're a part of as a culture, as a society, including especially our social media usage. And so we believe that when we can use social media well to the best of our ability, it can actually make us better people. It can actually make our world a better place. And so as a part of our everyday mission, we actually very active, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of it, right? Because we recognize this is another way that we can continue just to make improvement in our world. So that's gonna be a big lens that we're looking at when we're talking about social media today. But as we kind of move forward from here, let's start by defining our terms, right? Like what actually is social media in the first place? Well, I recently memorized this definition, so if I butcher it, please have mercy on me. But according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, they define social media as forms of electronic communication through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. Said it right, good, awesome. So that's kind of a wordy definition, but if we were to zoom in on that one line there, right, create online communities, we would see that social media exists to connect people closer together. And it honestly does an amazing, amazing job at that. It's crazy to think about, but only the last 15 years has social media really started to become a thing. And only the last 10 years has become something that's right there on our phone, in our pocket, we have with us 24/7 whenever we want. Before then it would take forever, you wanted to send mail to someone or page them or whatever, right? There's all these different ways. But now, if you want to communicate with someone all the way on the other side of the world, in an instant, you're connected. And so no other generation has been this widely connected before. And that probably tells us something that is probably a big part of all of our lives.
Yes, how big of a part of our lives is it? Does anybody have a guess on how many hours a day the average teenager uses media? Not just social media, but media as a whole. Some of us may know, because some of us have that like fun little screen time app on our phones, right? Sometimes I look at that and I'm like, ugh, it's a little rough. But anybody have a guess how many hours the average teenager uses media every day? Yeah. 13, excellent guess. Anybody else have another guess? Yeah. 7, you said? 7.5? Is that, sorry.
Just 7.
Okay, excellent guesses. Actually, the average teenager uses social media, not just social media, all media, for about 9 hours every day. And this really doesn't even count the time where we're double dipping, what I like to call double dipping. We have the TV on and we're on our phone, or we got the computer and the phone and the TV going all at the same time, right? Really, this is more time than I get to sleep at night, tragically. This is more time than we spend at school. So this is a lot of time that we are spending using media. So it makes me think, man, if I'm spending this much time on media, if teenagers are spending this much time on media every day, how many times are we picking up our phones? Does anybody have a guess on how many times? 262, very specific, I love it, Anybody else have a guess? I'm really feeling this side of the room. I'm loving it over here. If you guys wanna guess. 256, very, very cool. Thank you so much for that. Actually, you can find this out on your Scream Time app as well, in case you're wondering. But actually, the average teenager picks up their phone about 100 times a day. So less than you guys were thinking. So that's pretty good, about 100 times a day. Just to kind of put this into perspective, If I were to wake up at 7 a.m. and go to sleep at 10 p.m., that gives me about 15 hours that I'm awake. I wanted to give us some extra hours, to like eat, brush our teeth, other than the media hours, right? So 15 hours is 900 minutes. If I were to divide 900 by 100, it comes out to 9. So on average, we're picking up our phones about every 9 minutes. But really, when we think about it, we're picking up our phones so much more often because there's so many times, like when we're in a presentation, when we're in mass, when we're in school, when we're playing a sport that we can't be picking up our phone. So just imagine how much more often we are reaching for that phone and picking it up. So based on these facts, whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it to ourselves or not, we place a really high priority on the connectedness that we get from different forms of media.
And so since we're using it this much, it probably also means that we all have some sort of opinion whenever it comes to social media. Some people, hate it, it's evil, get off it at all costs. Some people love it, maybe a little too much. We all know those people, love it a little too much, right? And most of us probably just end up falling somewhere in the middle. But one thing's for certain, we all seem to have some sort of opinion whenever it comes to social media. So what we want to do is just look at some opinions that some people had, not just anyone, but some famous faces, some celebrities, and look at what not only they had to say about social media, but also how it affected their own life, and just the steps that they took from that point on as well. So we'll see these celebrities. Hopefully we all love them. Maybe we don't. It's a little dicey when it comes to celebrities. We'll see. So first celebrity up here, we have Shawn Mendes. And what did Shawn say about his social media use, you ask? Well, he said, I struggle with social media a lot. To be honest with you guys, I deleted Instagram and Twitter from my phone. Sometimes I need to take a break from it because it gets to me just as much as it gets to anyone else. You have to take care of yourself. It's really important. Make yourself come first. So maybe a little selfish from Shawn at the end there. But other than that, right, Shawn saw that he was really spending a lot of time on Twitter, on Instagram, on social media, more than he was actually like living his actual life. Maybe more than he was eating, right, getting sleep, actually spending time with friends, the thing that actually gave him joy in life. He actually wasn't spending nearly as much time as that as he was using Instagram and Twitter. And so he just kind of took a bit of a step back and just kind of reevaluated things in his own life, kind of before going back into that. So it kind of affected his own mindset even. Going on to our next celebrity here, we have Kendall Jenner. And Kendall says, I just wanted a little bit of a break. I would wake up in the morning and look at it first thing. I'd go to bed and it'd be the last thing that I looked at. I felt a little too dependent on it, so I wanted to take a minute. I don't know if anyone reads that and maybe feels a little too relatable, that maybe the first thing we do whenever we wake up is we check our phone, right? What's on social media, right? Who posted what, who liked what. Maybe whenever we're going to bed, we kind of scroll ourselves to sleep until eventually we just kind of pass out, right? That sometimes social media could be the first thing we look at in the day, it could be the last thing we look at in the day. We look at it so many times in between that it can kind of become all-consuming. Sometimes it can feel like all we're doing is just looking at a screen for more than half the day. And Kendall was no different. She saw how much this was playing into her life that, again, kind of like Shawn, just kind of took a step back and just kind of reevaluated things. One last celebrity here. We have Ed Sheeran, the famous redhead. And so Ed said, you like that? I go on it, and there's nothing but people saying mean things. Twitter's a platform for that. One comment ruins your day, but that's why I've come off it. So Ed, again, kind of like Shawn, kind of took a bit of a step back from Twitter, from Instagram, from all those social medias, but it actually wasn't his own habits that affected that. It was actually the social media habits of other people. The way that other people were using social media really played an effect on his own life, to where now, today, he's really not hardly on any social media at all because of the way that other people are using it. So we see that even other people can have an effect, social media can have an effect on our lives, even if we're not using it maybe personally ourselves. And so, again, thinking about all these opinions, thinking about all these things, we kind of can go back to, like, we, unlike any other generation, are so widely connected, have this entire universe at our fingertips that no other generation has had to navigate before. No other generation has had to ask themselves, what's good social media usage? What's bad social media usage? How do I navigate this world that could be strange and weird and confusing sometimes? And so, with all these thoughts in mind, there was one more famous face that weighed in on this topic, and that was Pope Francis, Papa Frank himself. And Pope Francis said, emails, text messages, social networks, and chats can also be fully human forms of communication. It is not technology which determines whether or not communication is authentic, but rather the human heart and our capacity to use wisely the means at our disposal. So again, kind of a big, lengthy block quote there, but if we were to break it down to the core of what he's saying that social media isn't necessarily bad. It's also not necessarily good. But at its core, it's morally neutral. That's the way that we use it, right? That it affects our lives and affects the lives of the people around us. That's really gonna be the deciding factor, and if it's a good or a bad in our life. But at its core, it's a tool, and it all depends on how we use it. So again, like I said at the beginning, this isn't a social media is evil, it's bad, it's terrible, get off it at all costs, right? Kind of a talk, because it's not, right? At its core, it's morally neutral. But really what it is, it's just an open reflection on our own social media habits. What are those ways that we use social media well? To build ourselves up, to build the people around us that help us achieve the goals that we want in our lives? And what are those ways that maybe we're not careful with our habits and actually ends up draining the life from us instead? It actually ends up doing the opposite of what it was ever intended to do. And so we're just gonna look at 3 different ways that social media can affect our lives. We're looking at how social media can affect our happiness, our relationships, and our vision and our purpose for our lives. And we're gonna look at positives and negatives for each of those 3 categories.
Yeah, so how does social media affect our happiness? Social media has the incredible ability to make us really happy. And it's a super awesome way for us to be able to express ourselves. Never has there been a time before where we're able to share our gifts so widely, with people across the world. In fact, there's so many celebrities that have gotten their start purely off of social media, like Charli D'Amelio, Noah Beck, Justin Bieber, and Shawn Mendes, off of YouTube, right? So it's super awesome. Never before has this been the way that we lived, the way that we connected with one another. I have a friend, actually a fellow missionary, and she is an incredible ukulele player, and she writes her own songs. And she posts these songs that she writes on Instagram, and I would have never known about her incredible talent. I'm obsessed, she's so good, if it weren't for Instagram. I have another friend who is a photographer, and she runs her photography business almost purely off of Instagram, because it's her portfolio, it's where she's able to schedule clients, and she actually flies across the US so she can take pictures of different people, so she's not just confined to where she is. And I don't know about you guys, I love cute little Instagram or Etsy shops, and so I'm able to buy so many things from there, spend probably a little bit too much money, because they don't have just one brick or mortar store, they're all over the place. Or maybe what brings you guys happiness is, scrolling through TikTok, watching some funny stuff, or watching people fail, or those sort of things. Or maybe, just maybe, you post a picture on Instagram, and your girls or your guys are hyping you up in the comments, and you're like, okay, yes, thank you. And so those likes start pouring in, and you think you're, it makes you pretty happy, right? But I found in my own life that, right when I got off of that Instagram or TikTok or any of those things, or if I don't get enough likes or anything, that happiness goes away pretty fast. And so I kind of think to myself, man, is this happiness that I'm feeling from social media, is it truly lasting happiness?
Yeah, I'm right there with Danny, that social media really can be this great boost to our happiness, that I know there's so many moments in my own life where maybe, kind of having a rough day, kind of sad, kind of down, and maybe a friend shows me a funny video or just something like that, and it makes me laugh, it makes me smile, and it kind of is just that momentary boost to our happiness, right? So it can be this great ability for joy. But let's look at why that might be. Right? So scientists say that in our brain, we have this feel-good hormone called dopamine, right? So whenever we do something awesome or great or incredible, maybe we ace a test, we have a great workout, just whatever it is, we eat chocolate, actually, right? Good, right? Our brain releases this dopamine, and it feels good, and we want to go back and do it again and again and again, right? So scientists say that also, whenever we use social media, sometimes this dopamine is also released. We see those likes racking up, we see those followers increasing, we see those funny videos and they make us laugh, and it feels good. So we want to go back and do it again and again and again. It's kind of like this reward complex in that way. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing, actually, right? Again, eating chocolate, right? Something bad with eating chocolate. There's something wrong with that dopamine boost. But sometimes we can kind of get stuck in that cycle in a way that is unhealthy. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, social media kind of is this big highlight reel, right? Even if there is more of a push, more of a trend for people to be more real and authentic on social media, we also know that really nothing's posted without maybe being observed again and again and again. And so all we can see are maybe people's seemingly perfect lives or perfect moments or whatever it might be. And so we have to ask ourselves, if we're looking for a way to make us happy, we're probably also not feeling the best. Maybe we're sad, or we're angry, or we're lonely, or we're tired, or just generally fed up with life. And if we're feeling that way, and we're going to this platform where all we're seeing are people seemingly perfectly curated lives, is that really going to make us any happier? Probably not, right? It's probably only going to lead to lower self-esteem, more comparison, more wondering, why isn't my life nearly as good as this person's instead? It could even lead to a certain game of comparison where instead of leading our actual real lives, maybe instead we're just over-concerned about how am I going to present my life in the same way to the people around me. You know, wondering about what picture am I going to post, what caption am I going to use, how can I present this portion of my life perfectly to the people who follow me. And at the end of the day, maybe we don't even feel like we're actually leading our real, actual lives. And so I think this is really an experience that kind of goes even beyond social media, right? It's just a human experience to have this desire for you know, this sort of comparison, this desire to fit in and to be accepted, right? And to have things feel good and right. And so we actually have a video that I think showcases really this experience that we have on social media at times. I just think throughout watching it, maybe just kind of reflect, after all these people posting things, being influenced by each other even, do any of them really seem happier at the end of the day? Whatever might be going wrong or bad in their lives, do they really seem even happier at the end of the day because of it? So we'll go ahead and play it right now. Yeah, so I know there's some parts of that video that maybe seem a little corny or forced, but also there's a lot of parts of that video that maybe seem all too real a lot of times in our own life. I know, you know, the one guy there taking all the pictures, all the different clothes, trying to find the right picture. I know I've been there before, right? And when reflecting on how that affects my happiness, I know that at the end of it, I didn't feel any more fulfilled because of it, right? One thing that I really like about this video is at the very end, that girl is obviously just having like a really bad day, right? And she goes home, she posts that picture, she just kind of lays on the bed, just like dejected and defeated. And then those likes start coming in, and she sits up and she smiles. And what is that? Maybe that dopamine kind of kicking in. She kind of feels a little happier for the moment, right? But if that was like any of our friends kind of coming up and being like, yeah, like life is good now, right? We'd say, no, I don't think so. Like nothing's actually changed in your situation or your life. It's just kind of a Band-Aid masking the solution. And again, I think that's a very human experience, just even outside of social media. A lot of times, again, when things are going bad or wrong, we're angry, we're lonely, we're tired, a lot of times maybe we look for these forms of escapism that really just serve as Band-Aids, whereas those emotions are not actually resolved, right? And so I think something that we could ask ourselves whenever looking at our social media habits, how it affects our happiness, is, is my social media, or really maybe better put, what are those places in my social media usage that are bringing me happiness, that are great, that are uplifting me? And what are those moments, though? What are those ways that I use it that it actually doesn't make me happier, as much as I want to convince myself that it does, but it actually leaves me feeling more alone, maybe more sad, kind of drained of life instead of actually refilled. Because the way that social media affects our happiness is naturally going to affect the way that it affects our relationships, which is what we'll move into next. How social media can affect our relationships. So looking at how it can affect our relationships positively, we have to go back to that original definition, that social media exists to connect people closer together. And again, like we said, if we're honest, it does an amazing, amazing job at that. I mentioned earlier how I'm from Louisiana originally. And so actually literally 1,000 miles away, all the way up here in Ohio now, from all the family that I've ever loved, all the friends that I've made throughout my entire life. And unlike I used to before, I don't get to see them every day. I don't get to talk to them every day. I don't get to hug them or see them or know what's going on in their life. But thanks to social media, it really has this ability to make the world a bit of a smaller place, where I can see all the key events that are going on in their life. We can FaceTime each other, we can talk to each other, stay updated, and it doesn't have to feel like I'm 1,000 miles away anymore. And I'm sure maybe we all know people, or maybe we have those experiences ourselves with family members that aren't nearby anymore, friends that we don't see very often. And social media, really without it, maybe those would have been lost friendships. But thanks to it, those are friendships that we still have. It can also enhance our real in-person relationships, even those people that are right here next to us still. Just the countless amount of times that maybe a friend has showed us a funny video or a post or whatever it is, or something that really inspired us. And those become things that continue on in those real in-person relationships as well. One last thing that I think of even is there was this one time when I was in college where I went to go help at this event at another college in Mississippi, not too far from Louisiana, so just kind of a couple states over. And during that event, while I was helping out at, I met this guy who we really became really quick friends. We had similar senses of humor and just similar personalities. We really clicked it off really well. And so over the course of this event, we really had this great friendship blossoming, but we were kind of sad whenever we realized, man, it's over. We have to go back, right, miles away, probably never see each other again. And again, honestly, without social media, probably would have just been a lost cause, but we exchanged social media and actually kept up a relationship beyond that, one that's continued to be uplifting and joyful, certainly, hopefully, for both of us. And so really, when we think about all the ways that social media does connect us, really thank God for the gift of social media, because it does an amazing job of doing good for our relationships.
It can do super excellent things for our relationships, but unfortunately, it isn't hard to see how social media could get in the way of us having strong in-person relationships as well. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes, I'll be bored one night, there's nothing really going on. Maybe, my self-confidence is not as peak, and so I decide to go and scroll on TikTok and Instagram because I know, while I'm on TikTok and Instagram, I won't be thinking about, like, if I'm sad, if I feel lonely, if I'm not feeling too good about myself. And then eventually, after scrolling for a couple hours, I get bored, so I come off of it, and I feel those feelings come rushing in so quickly again. Those feelings of, like, self-doubt, of maybe isolation. And it really makes me think, man, I'm so sorry, I just had a scroll moment. Basically, there's so many people that have said that their social media habits have actually made them feel more isolated than connected, and that's the whole point of social media. Actually, there was a photographer that started seeing this in his life, the isolation in his friend's life, and decided to do a photo series. And we're gonna go ahead and show you some of those photos. Did you guys notice anything about these photos? Yeah. All of the electronics are missing, that is correct. So how crazy to think is that we're all sitting in these huge group of people and we're just staring at our hands. I found myself doing this so many times where I'm in a group with people that I love, maybe people that I wanna like get to know or that I already know and I wanna talk to, and instead I'm sitting there scrolling on my phone. Or maybe all of us will just be sitting there scrolling on our phones. And how sad is this? That we're scrolling on our phones instead of talking to one another. So in this kind of way, you start thinking, man, is social media really social media? Or is it kind of becoming anti-social media? And just like Parker was saying before, when we're living in this world of social media, it's really hard to not compare our lives to other people's lives because we're all posting the best parts of our lives on social media, and we forget that everyone has those days where, we're at home, like, maybe, haven't showered in a little bit, like not looking too cute, right? But we forget that everyone has those days. And we forget that it's okay to not have your life look perfect all the time because nobody's life looks perfect.
And I really think that a lot of times social media can become anti-social media whenever it becomes our primary form of communication. That maybe we're so accustomed to using it that maybe there's this difficult conversation that we have to have. Or maybe something as simple as asking someone out on a date, right? Or something like that. Whatever it might be, those difficult things that are hard to do face-to-face, that we only do primarily over social media instead. Or even just beyond that even, right? We've probably all seen a comment section before, people just arguing, saying horrible things. And it seems so easy just to kind of converse in that way of just arguing and bickering, because it's easy to forget that the other person on the other side of the screen is another living, breathing human being, right? So something I like to think about is with our social media, our devices or phones, whatever it is, that they're really supposed to be a bridge, That at the end of the day, the goal is to connect us closer to the people around us. But all too often, we're not careful. What do they become but a wall? And just kind of isolate us from the people even right in front of us. But when it becomes our primary form of communication, sometimes it could actually do the opposite of what it was ever intended to do, and actually push us further away from the people around us, from people even far away from us even, just by simply forgetting the humanity of the people on the other side of that screen, precisely when it becomes our primary form of communication even. So I think whenever talking about how social media can negatively impact our relationships, I think it's also important not just to look at ways that it can isolate them, but also certain ways that can actually maybe make them worse and kind of separate us from people instead. Something that I was never intended to do in the first place. So thinking about these examples, just very briefly, the first of them would be the issue of cyberbullying, right? Bullying itself being defined as any aggressive, repetitive, unwanted behavior. Usually there's a perceived power imbalance. And again, this is probably something that maybe we feel we've heard of since a young age. We think of maybe people being shoved in lockers or things like that, those physical signs of bullying. And that definitely does happen, that is a part of bullying, but actually the most prominent types are, right, social and verbal, so the ways that we use our words, that we interact in our relationships. And so with cyberbullying, right, that same thing happening on a virtual sphere, we see that happening all the more frequently, right? We see about 60% of people actually say that they've either witnessed or experienced cyberbullying before. And on Instagram, right, a very popular platform, right, we saw all the hands go up for Instagram, actually being the most popular platform for it to happen on, about 40% of people experiencing it or witnessing that on that platform as well. But there's a good chance that none of us would outright know if anyone has experienced this, because only about 1 out of every 10 people actually ever say anything about it. The other 9 in 10 typically tend to just suffer in silence. And so whenever I think about cyberbullying, I think about this one story about this girl. She was a freshman in high school. It's not her real name, but we'll just call her Jay for the purposes of the story. And Jay, like I said, was a freshman in high school. Really nothing super spectacular about her freshman year. She kind of had a group of friends that she hung out with. She wasn't involved in any clubs or sports or anything. Went to school, went home, came back, repeated. That was about it. So Jay kind of felt that no one really noticed her, so she thought it was strange whenever one day she saw that there was this account made about her online with her real name, her real number, her real picture, her real email address on it. And she thought it was stranger whenever all of a sudden this account started posting all these horrible, negative things about her that really started to eat away at her own identity, at her own self-esteem even. And it wasn't like she could just close the laptop and walk away from it because she was getting text messages and emails with the exact same thing. And this went on for months and months, almost close to years even, until eventually she decided just to delete her social media, change her phone number. When it came time for her to go to college and graduate, she just completely went to another state. She just had to get away from it all. And still today, whenever Jade talks about this, she says that things are getting better with it, right? It doesn't bother her nearly as much, but it definitely does still bother her. And that's definitely still something that she'd be working through probably for a while. And so I think it goes to show that whenever it comes to social media, right, or even outside of it, our words carry a certain weight, whether they're virtual or in person. What we say to other people carries a certain weight. And so while it could take maybe a second to type something up, hit send, send a picture, a video, whatever it might be, sometimes it can take a lifetime for people to actually get over these things. And so just by being all the more mindful of who we're interacting with, of the weight that our words have, we can maybe start a change in this as well. Regardless if we're involved in anything nearly as close as what happened to Jay or not, still in those little ways, it has a big impact. And just by recognizing that humanity, hopefully we can start to see a change in that for the better.
Yeah, and just in the same way that it's so easy to forget the humanity of the people on the other side of the screen and send maybe something not so nice, it's also a lot easier to send sexually explicit images of yourself over messaging, or what we call sexting. I just want to start off by saying that I'm sorry that our culture has taught you that it's okay for people to ask you for images of yourself. And I'm also sorry that our culture has taught you that it's okay for you to just send images of yourself, because it's not. Actually, 1 in 12 teenagers or 1 in 4 teenagers have participated in sexting before. 2/3 of women or girls, and only 1/3 of boys. And actually, 1 out of 12 people that sext, they actually forward the sexts that they receive without permission from the person. So I have a couple stories for you guys actually. So when I was in college, I went to get together with my friend at my friend's house, and I met this guy, and I was like, okay, you're kind of cute, and so we exchanged Snapchats, right, because that's what you do now. So we were Snapchatting for a while. I really thought he liked me. He was asking me all these questions about myself. I thought that we would probably date in the future. And then one day he asked me to send a dirty pic of myself. And me being who I am, I was like, what? Why would you ask me that? So I went into my kitchen, and I sent a picture of my dirty dishes in the sink. He did not like this at all. He got very angry with me. He eventually stopped texting me altogether, started texting one of my best friends and asking her for the exact same pictures. I have another story for you guys. This is actually from a fellow missionary. He went into a school, and he was told that a lot of the young men in this school were asking the girls for pictures of themselves. And so he asked the men, he asked, why are you asking for these pictures? And these young men told him, the reason that they ask for these pictures is because once they get that picture, they can get that girl to do whatever they want for them. Does that sound like love to you? No. So when people are asking you for these pictures of yourself, truly, 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 they are not trying to get to know you. They're trying to use you for what your body can do for them, and it definitely isn't love. Okay. And what I'm gonna say next, it's not meant to scare anybody, it's not meant to condemn anybody in any way, but participating in sexting under the age of 18 is considered child pornography, and it is punishable by law. Okay, so again, if any of you have participated in sexting, really, I'm not here to condemn you. I'm not here to look down upon you. Again, I just want to apologize that our culture has failed you in that way. But just know that it's okay to say no, because it's not a crime to respect your body, and you're not a prude if you say no. And it's okay with not being okay with being used as someone else's personal pornography.
And so this last way that we see with social media, sometimes our relationships even growing worse is precisely through that same issue of pornography. Pornography being any sexually explicit images, videos, or other content meant to sexually arouse the viewer. And it's a sad fact in our culture today that it's so normalized in our culture that maybe it's something that we can come upon even in something as public as social media. And maybe a lot of times, right, it's even hard to understand maybe why, because it's become so normalized today. However, studies have shown times and times again, higher rates of uses of pornography leading to higher rates of loneliness, of depression, of higher relationship infidelity, and even lower rates of self-esteem, higher rates of aggression towards women. And why is it? Why is it that almost anything that we would want in our life seems to go down, and everything that we don't want to happen in our lives and our relationship tends to go up? It's because precisely in this issue, we're being trained to view other human beings not as people to be loved and respected, but as objects, merely for our own use, that we can simply discard whenever we're done. And once we have that mindset, we can't help but apply that mindset to all of our relationships, our families, our friendships, our romantic relationships, and at the end of the day, even to ourselves. That we can't help but just view ourselves even as merely something that can be used by someone else instead of a person that can be loved. I know so many men and women who have struggled with this issue, and none of them meant to hurt anyone, none of them meant to use anyone. Most of them stumbled upon it, fell into it whenever they were young. The average age of first exposure to pornography is actually about 8 years old. So most people fall into it whenever they're young. And they grow addicted fast. The addictive effects of pornography have actually been compared to the addictive effects of hardcore drugs in the way that it hooks the user in to come back again and again and again. We talked about that dopamine cycle, right? And sometimes how that can be ruinous. And so these people found themselves almost kind of in this same isolating prison, that they knew this is something that they really probably shouldn't be doing, but they found themselves stuck and coming back again and again and again. And what felt worse is that they would go into their real public lives, maybe be lauded as a great man or a great woman, and then go home and fall into this issue of pornography again, and just feel that cycle of shame repeat, almost like they couldn't tell anyone about it. But these men and women, at the same time, didn't stay there, that they recognized the real love that they were made for, and they were going to say no to anything that dare be its counterfeit. They recognized the men and women that they want to be, the husbands and fathers, the wives, the mothers that they hope to one day be, and they decided that this wasn't helping them get any closer to that goal. And so these men and these women, they found the help that they need, they found the freedom, they found the accountability partners to where they're free today. And so when it comes to this issue in particular, if this has been a part of your story at any point in the past, or even right here, right now, I just want to say that I'm sorry, because no one in our culture has been spared. And again, like Danny said, I'm sorry that our culture has failed all of us in this way, and that something like this has become so normalized, that even viewing ourselves and the people around us as objects has become so normalized. But even if, with all of these issues, there's so many temptations out there that no other generation has had to deal with before, that also means that there's so many opportunities that we have to become saints, to become the heroes that this generation needs. And if social media has actually been a form of causing harm and distancing us from the people around us, it can also be a mode of great retribution even. This hashtag up here, hashtag porn kills love, actually comes from an organization called fightthenewdrug.org, which is an organization dedicated to just talking about the negative effects of pornography on our lives and relationships. And they share this hashtag as a way of just showing people that we deserve real, authentic love, and not its ugly, cheap counterfeit. And so I think really in all these issues, cyberbullying, sexting, pornography, whatever it might be, even things not on the virtual sphere, that we could really use social media in so many great and powerful ways to actually turn the tide, to actually use it well and become the saints that this generation really deeply needs and desires.
Yeah, so basically, we just have to be aware, because social media can be a huge aid to our in-person relationships, but we can't let it replace our in-person relationships altogether. I think we can all agree when I say that it takes a lot less courage to confront someone over social media, a lot less true sorrow to apologize. It's a lot easier to not feel guilty when things are said or done over social media, and in that same way, it's so much easier, a lot less shameful to watch sexually explicit things over media, over social media. And so I think, we all know that, I just had another scroll moment. I'm so sorry. Sometimes, it just be like that sometimes. We would often do things that we wouldn't do in person over social media, but the things that we do, the things that we say can have effects that are sometimes even worse than if they were in person. And when we're using social media like this, we're failing to see the humanity of the other person, and we're failing to love them authentically. But when we use social media in the way that it's meant to be used, how Parker and I have been talking about, we're able to love people how we all truly deserve to be loved. And so I invite you to ask yourself when you're using social media, am I looking at these people as if they're real humans worthy of love? Or am I failing to see the humanity of my social media friends? Oh, sorry. Now we're gonna go ahead and talk about our purpose and our vision. So how does social media affect our purpose and our vision? So we believe that social media is so prevalent in today's society because of one thing, and that's community. Because whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, we all crave community. We all crave to be a part of something. And in community, that's often where we kind of learn like who we are, what we want to be, maybe who we don't really want to be. And so what if we just spend some time, even a portion of the 9 hours we spend a day on media, to do good for others and to lift up other people in our community. And there was actually one young man in Washington that decided to do this very intentionally. We're going to go ahead and show you a video.
Jeremiah is intelligent,
Influential, funny, easy to talk to, kind. Jeremiah is always there for me. Smart guy, knows where he's going in life.
a great friend.
Jeremiah is an inspiration to Westside.
Jeremiah is a person who's extremely caring and kind, and he's made a huge difference in our community and our school.
My name is Jeremiah Anthony. I'm a junior in high school. Westside Rose is a Twitter account that I started up in October of 2011, and we just send compliments to people who we think are feeling bad a certain day or have done something really good, like winning a state title. And I built this up by first complimenting people I knew, my friends, and then they started telling their friends, and those people started telling their friends, and then soon it became a pretty popular following. I believe that showing the goodness in people is very integral to our account, because so many people on Twitter and Facebook, they get cyberbullied because they're less than perfect. And no one is perfect. So we try to have as sincere compliments as possible. I think everyone likes a sincere compliment. This combats cyberbullying because cyberbullies, they try to focus on what's bad about a person. They try to say, hey, you're really bad at this or that. And I try to say, no, you're actually really good at this. And you're much more good at this than you're bad at that.
Westside Rose is a very influential group.
They don't just go for the popular kids, they go for everyone in our school.
They are doing an absolutely wonderful job.
Westside Rose has had a huge impact on so many kids' lives at our school.
Westside Rose is very inspirational to the student population at Westside.
An example to all students at Westside and beyond that, to just be an encouragement.
I think they take people and they boost their confidence up. They surely have done it to me.
So one thing to notice about this video is that everyone that was talking about Jeremiah and how Jeremiah made the difference and not the social media itself. That's because social media is the platform, but it's the people behind the platforms that truly make a difference. There was actually a girl that saw Culture Project talk in Philadelphia, and she decided to make her own Instagram compliments page for her own community, and you can see one of her posts up here right now. And actually, we almost have an obligation to be doing this, where we're able to spread positivity on such a wide scale like never before we've been able to. And like Pope Francis said, it's actually really good for us to be on social media, so we can be that positive driving force when sometimes not everything on social media is so positive.
And so social media can be this great tool that connects us closer to community because, like Danny said, we yearn for and desire community. In a lot of ways, we were made for community and to be in communion. But at the same time, social media is limited. And maybe that's why we could see someone with 1,000 followers and yet they still feel lonely. Or we could spend an entire day on social media liking people's pictures and commenting and still feel like we never really connected with anyone. Because at the end of the day, we were made for a real life, flesh and blood community, and not a digital, virtual, online one. And until we actually reach that point, right, of that real in-person community and just stay in that digital realm, we'll continue to be looking for more, and it'll never really be enough. And so just to always keep those two things in balance, that can be this great tool of, again, creating online communities, connecting us together, but it can't be an end in and of itself. And so, with that being said, we're kind of drawing near the end here. So let's just kind of recap briefly everything that we talked about. So we talked about whether we like it or not, social media seems to be here to stay. And whether we realize it or not, it really has a big impact on all of our lives, regardless of the degree to which we use it. And so we looked at how it affects our happiness, how it can make us happier and more joyful. But if we're not careful, it can actually sometimes take the joy away from our lives, at least to compare ourselves to others instead, and maybe even sadder at the end of the day. We looked at how it affects our relationships, how it can make them stronger and more authentic, but also distant and less connected sometimes. And also how it affects our vision and our purpose for our lives, how it can be this great tool to connect us to the people around us, but at the end of the day, we were made for a real-life flesh and blood community. And as long as we're staying in a digital community solely, it'll never be enough, and we'll continue to be searching for more and more and more. And so maybe as we've been speaking, maybe you've recognized in your own life those ways that, yeah, I use social media pretty well in that way, I'm pretty good with that, and those other ways where, yeah, maybe I could probably use a little bit of work on that. I recognize those places where those are. And so wherever we are in our social media usage and our habits, the good news is, again, we don't have to stay there. We can make the changes to our social media habits that will help make us better people and help make our world a better place. And so to help us do that, we actually have 3 challenges that we want to present to all of you that maybe we can implement this upcoming week even on how to maybe even further reflect on how to change these habits that maybe we want to change in our lives. So the first of those challenges, despite what this slide looks like it's saying, is not to delete all of your apps, but instead just to test yourself. That sometimes it can be a good thing to take a break from social media just for a little bit, right? It doesn't have to be for months or weeks on end, but maybe just for a weekend or a day or an evening or an afternoon, whatever we're comfortable with, wherever we're at this moment in our own journeys, right? Just taking that brief moment away from it so that we can see what are the ways that we're actually too dependent on it. So we could ask ourselves, whenever I'm bored or lonely, do I find myself reaching for my pocket? Or whenever I'm interacting with people, does it still feel like the same way, or does it feel like awkward? Like I don't really know what to say to this person if I can't glance at my phone, right? So those ways that maybe we put it away for a little bit can show us the ways that we're maybe using it too much. So that way the next day, whenever we bring it back, we can make those changes. We can make those adjustments and those tweaks so that we can actually be living our lives to the full, to the best of our ability. So maybe that's a good thing to do, maybe an evening this week, or maybe this upcoming weekend, right? Maybe just taking a whole day or a weekend, whatever we're at. That'd be a great challenge. Second challenge would be to really have the power to really curate a positive social media feed. I get it. One of my biggest struggles with social media actually is that endless, bottomless scroll where you're just going for hours, and then I'm done and I feel like I'm tired and my eyes are red and I just want to pass out and I feel like I have nothing to show for it. Really we have the ability to really curate a feed that actually will uplift us, actually will put ourselves in the right direction. So maybe a good challenge would be to find 3 social media accounts that you're following right now that aren't uplifting you, aren't giving you life or energy, aren't helping you become the person that you want to be, and unfollow those accounts. And in their place, follow 3 accounts that'll leave you feeling more uplifted, more motivated, more ready to take on the people around you and the world around you once you're done with that scroll, once you're done with that feed. So that would be the second one. The third one would be simply that you have the power to be a positive influence on social media yourself. Saw some great examples up here that just compliments Paige, Jeremiah, all those things. But one of my favorite things from that Jeremiah video actually is that there's one tweet in that whole list of tweets that you keep seeing throughout the video that says you don't need an anonymous Twitter account to compliment people. I just think that's so true, right? That really our words, again, like I said, carry a weight whether they're online or not. And so we have the power to be one of those accounts that someone else can follow and leave feeling better about themselves, leave feeling more uplifted, right? It doesn't have to be something weird like complimenting someone every single day or something like that if you feel like that's too extra, right? But just in the simple ways that we interact with people and just recognizing the power that our relationships have with the people around us, that could be the biggest change all in and of itself. So those would be our 3 challenges to all of you. Maybe just to implement them in these upcoming weeks and see those ways that we can begin to make those tweaks that we desire. So with that being said, we have one last video that we're going to show you because we love ending it on a good note. And so, has anyone ever seen those series of videos? It's like Kid President, right? It's like this little boy, like dresses up the president, right? I see some head nods, yes. For those of you who don't know, man, not too terribly old, but a little older. It's not brand new by any means. Basically, this little boy dressed up in a suit, kind of was like the president, right? Just like gave people like pep talks and like hyped them up, right? And the videos went viral. People loved him. They thought it was great and amazing. Nowadays, sadly, Kid President is no longer a kid. Such is the way of time. But nowadays, right, he's a little older, but in this video, he just shows and talks about the process of making those videos, the impact that it had on people, and just the ongoing need to use media in ways that remind us like who we truly are. So let's look at it.
I learned we all need a pep talk. You. We need you. Now, I'm not trying to sound needy, but I'm just saying, we need you. We need every voice. Little voices, shaky voices, any voice looking to spread love. We need the young. We need the people who might have forgotten what it's like to be young. We need the hopeful. We need the hopeless, the usual, and the unusual, because we can't handle any more business as usual. We posted a video on the internet. Brad wrote a pep talk, well, because he needed a pep talk. Now, I know what it's like to need a pep talk, so I delivered it. We put it online and realized lots of other people need a pep talk. Teachers, parents, kids, Beyonce, people who aren't Beyonce, more people than I even knew existed. There are people all around you who need reminding. To laugh. To dance. We can remind each other of all the reasons there are to dance. And there's lots of reasons to dance, if you're looking for them. So look for them. Because your dance moves, they're needed. Even if they're awkward, especially if they're awkward. Your joy, it's needed. We are little reminders to each other to stay unusual. Whether you're Michael Jordan and you were in Space Jam, or if you're just somebody who's watched Space Jam. A lot guilty. You are needed. There are people all around you who need reminding. And you can let them know. We can help each other roll on when we can't do things on our own. If this journey's taught us anything, it's taught us that. The little words created out of big love, that can go a long way. So here's the love. Here's to throwing parades for each other. Parties that cheer each other on. Wise friends to light the way. We need reminders that amazing things can happen. Because they do, all the time. And one of them is you. We can brighten up every room we enter, every place we go, the entire world. But only if we take care of each other. Together, we're unstoppable. So we gotta stop stopping each other from being unstoppable. That made sense, right? What I'm trying to say is that we got too much goodness to be spread. Pep talks are nice, but they're not a one-time thing. We all need them again from time to time, because people grow. Days pass, times change, challenges come, and we all need little reminders that we're here. Reminders of why we're here. The most amazing thing is the fact that we're here together right now. One chapter may be ending, but there's a whole big story that we're telling together. So we'll keep pep talking, and we hope you will too. Sometimes it'll be seen, sometimes it won't, but it always matters. Believe me, I know. Because love changes everything. So let's fill the world with it.
Man, I love I love leaving on a positive note. He can give me a pep talk whenever he wants, honestly. I'd be hyped, that'd be awesome. Thank you all for listening to us, honestly. Shameless plug right here. If any of you are on social media, which I know you all are, because you outed yourselves and raised your hand at the beginning, you can follow us on any of our social media. Again, like I said, social media is a big part of our mission. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, recently TikTok. Just searching The Culture Project is a good way to find us. Just continual updates and feeds and content, just reminding us who we are. Because again, like you said, pep talks are a continual thing, because things change and we need little reminders of who we are and what we're made for, what we're called for, how we're called to live. So please, by all means, if you feel so called, follow us on social media. And again, thank you all for listening. You've been an amazing audience. And yeah, just thank you for receiving us well and listening to what we had to say. So thank you all. Yeah, if there's any questions about either the presentation itself, social media, or even just the Culture Project as a general, we'd be happy to answer anything that you have. Unless you don't feel like you have to.
Not all at one time, please.
All right.
I have a question about the Culture Project. So you guys are young. I don't know how old you are, but I think it's absolutely fantastic that to see young people, and you guys are the same. Like, you inspire us all the time, that you continually strive to get to know the Lord and to try to follow him the best that you can. You keep coming back, and that speaks volumes to the world, whether you think so or not. But I just really applaud you guys for the choice that you've made to become missionaries and to dedicate your life to serving the Lord in this way. And so thank you for that. And I just wanted to know, like, how old do you have to be in order to become a missionary to join the Culture Project in your movement?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a great question. Technically, the only qualification is really just 18 and older, really. Typically, most of our missionaries have like graduated college, or at least are like of college age. But technically, we have had a missionary in the past that joined right out of high school at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, if it's a good fit, the Lord desires, then I mean, yeah, there's definitely always a way. So, yeah, that'd be it as far as age. Yeah, we're all over the country, so we're not actually just in Cleveland. We're a national sort of missionary organization. So we have a team in Cleveland. It's not just Danny and I. We have a whole team here in Cleveland, one in Toledo, kind of right over, and then in Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And then we're continuing to expand from there and add teams. So that's where we're at right now. So, yeah.
Just for any of you guys interested, because I think some of you guys would be amazing at this. So think about it, you know, and I'm sure if you have any questions afterwards, you, Danny and Parker can talk to you about it. Yes, Abby. Danny's laughing, yeah. Abby's pretty amazing, so, oh yeah. Just a few, yeah. But I'm the only one in the room that can, yeah. Anybody else have a question? Any comments? Yes, Jackson? Oh, he just called me out. Lying in church is immoral. You're right. Where's Father Jay? I need him. Anybody? Okay. So, it's all right, Jackson. Thank you for keeping me honest. Yes, Drew. Yeah. Yes, thank you. That's a tough topic to tackle with anybody, because I know we're all kind of glued to our phones and social media. It's hard to take a break, but I loved your challenge. So the first one was cut back if you can, right? A little bit. And the second one was to follow. No, that's the third one. What was the other one? Get rid of 3. Did I mix them up? Does anybody remember? Because obviously I don't. Yeah, so, right. They're more positive. Right. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. So, but thank you so much, you guys. We're gonna just enter into a little bit of reflective prayer time before the Eucharist right now. So if you guys want to just spread out, because this is time where you can just, you know, the Eucharist will be out. You can just spend that time with Jesus and be really honest with him. We're going to do like a social media examination of conscience. Or you could just close your eyes. You can move out any place in the church where you're not going to be distracted. So, yes, and Mitchell, you want to come up here? Hopefully we get these lights right. We can't figure out why these aren't going off, but we're going to give it one more shot. But yeah, let's just enter. If you guys can spread out a little bit, especially if you're distracted by your neighbor. And really take this time to just ask the Lord to put on your heart if you need to change something up in your life as far as your social media usage, using your phone in general, your computer, you know, maybe where he's calling you to do more of, where he's calling you to make a positive change, where he's calling you to be more with him. So I would just ask Mitchell if he could just lead us in prayer.
If you guys can join me in prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, we thank you for bringing us here tonight. You brought each and every one of us here for a reason. We just ask that you help us evaluate in our lives what ways we could do better and which ways we can keep doing the good word on social media. We just ask that you silence our hearts and really allow us to be in the presence of you. This is in your name, amen.
If everyone would please kneel. Do I set limitations on the time I spend using social media when no one else does?
Do I honestly feel I use prudence and moderation when it comes to social networking? Or am I so consumed by it that I leave little or no time for interpersonal relationships that are also very important with true friends, my family, and of course, God?
Do I ignore or not pay enough attention to people around me because I am focused too much on texting, tweeting, snapping, or scrolling through endless TikTok videos?
Am I obsessed with how many people are following me or something I posted?
Do I fear I would truly be out of touch if I went without social media for a week or even just a day?
Do I act in a way that reflects my faith in Christ in social media?
What have I done in the past week to live my faith more openly on my social media?
Do I realize that people make judgments about my character from what I post? What kind of person do I want them to see and know?
Jesus Christ, we are called to be your disciples in the world. We are called to put on the new self created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness, as we hear in Ephesians 4:24. By putting away falsehood, we are to put away all malice and all guile and insincerity and envy and all slander. 1 Peter 2, verse 1.
Jesus, you know the people here who have experienced wounds to their reputations, hearts, and emotions because a lie or gossip has spread quickly through social media.
When using social media, have I forgotten or ignored the fact that I am always a representative of Christ's church?
Have I posted statuses, comments, or tweets that did not portray the truth or that distorted the truth?
Have I posted statuses or comments with the intention of boasting, ridiculing, or being deceitful?
Have I posted anything that was a lie and could or did harm to the reputation of another person?
Have I used social media to gossip or contribute to a rumor? Even if a statement began as truth, did I fail to recognize that through social media, those words could have very easily become a lie as they got repeated and distorted?
Jesus, you have created honor to be the social witness given to the human dignity. Everyone has a right to the honor of their name and reputation and to respect, as everyone has been created in your image and likeness.
Have I offended against the virtues of charity and justice by commenting on something another has written or posted, or by taking a picture of someone that portrays them in a bad light or embarrasses them?
It is okay to post about the blessings God has given us, but it is not okay to try to portray a second life that is not the reality of how we live.
Do I realize that portraying falsehoods about myself really affects others and prevents me from really connecting my true self with the body of Christ?
Have I posted pictures or statuses with the intention of hurting someone directly because I knew they were going to see it, making others jealous or building up my own reputation?
Have I sent pictures of myself that do not reflect my identity as a son or daughter of God?
Do I let my online persona reflect who I am as a disciple of Christ?
Instead of boasting, do I in some way give praise to God?
Instead of gossiping, do I build people up?
Instead of posting, texting, tweeting about the negative things someone did over the weekend, do I privately and publicly compliment someone on the positive or Christ-like things that they do.
It is easy for our words to get lost in the digital translation, and so going forward, when posting, tweeting, snapping, DMing, and texting, will I take a moment to discern what the intentions of my words are before I hit the send button?
Imagine what far-reaching global evangelization St. Paul could have done with the internet and a cell phone. St. Paul would have liked these inexhaustible tools for spreading the gospel. He also would have realized that this was a tool for potential good, but could also be manipulated by evil.
Romans 7:21. When I want to do good, evil is right there waiting.
He would have liked the intention behind social networking, but would have seen their potential to become an obstacle to true Christian community.
Does my use of social media reflect my focus on God or myself?
Am I an arrow pointing others to God or to myself?
So, I have friends, hundreds, maybe thousands, because of social networking. Who knows the real me? You do, God.
Jesus, do you look at my words, pictures, and profile and rejoice because they represent all you created and hoped for me to be?
What do I want to be remembered for?
Technology is not bad. It is good. But when asked how we should relate to each other, St. Paul would say just one word: love.
Jesus, in all things, in all circumstances, in my actions, words, meditations of my heart, and use of social media, help me to love. Amen.
I love this song, I Am a Child of God. As we end this night, we just ask for our Blessed Mother's intercession. We ask you, Mary, to please pray for us, your children, that you would be there to guide us towards your Son. God, help us to always remember that you created us on purpose and for a great purpose, that we truly are children of God, and that makes us royalty. Thank you for that. Please help us to reflect that royalty in everything that we think, do, and say, and help us to help one another do that, to lift one another up as the body of Christ and lead one another to heaven. So Mary, we just ask you again to pray for us as we together pray. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Thank you again, Danny and Parker. Let's give them a round of applause. Really appreciate you guys coming. And did you bring any literature or anything you wanted to pass out? Yeah, you could put it, there's the table back there by the candles. People can grab stuff on their way out if that works. And then, I don't know, what time is it? 8:04, okay, so we don't really have time to hang out. If you can, you're welcome to hang out, and some of the core will be around. Danny and Parker will be around for a little bit if you have any questions for them, or just need prayers for anything. But know that we are going to be praying for you guys, and I am planning to be at Panera's again Tuesday. Is 2:30 or 3 best? 3? Okay. So 3 o'clock, if anybody wants to come to Panera's at 3 o'clock in Bainbridge on Tuesday, I will be there, and we'll have bagels and pray together and just catch up, maybe open up some scripture. So we'd love to see you guys if you can make it. And then we definitely have a life night next Sunday so far. I'll let you know if that changes. All right. Thanks, guys. Love you all.